So in this video, we'll be going over how to work out the area of a triangle and trapezium. Now, when working out the area of a triangle, it's important that you recognize that a triangle is basically half of a rectangle or a square, depending on the sort of shape of the triangle. Or you could say it's half of a parallelogram if you've already looked at that particular shape. So the formula for the area of a triangle can be written as the base times the height divided by 2. And this is definitely something that is worth making a general note of. Now, sometimes you might find that the area of a triangle can be written as a half times base times the height, which again is entirely up to you. But I would say that base times height divided by 2 rolls off the tongue just that little bit better. Now, the key thing to note when working out the area of a triangle is making sure that you're only focusing on the height and the base of the triangle. Now, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult, particularly when you've got all three sides of a triangle mentioned. So for example, if I had this was 12 centimeters and this was 13 centimeters and this was 10 centimeters, and the height was, and let's say just a random length was given me as 8 centimeters, then it would be this measurement here and this measurement here that I would need to work out the area of the triangle. Now, sometimes the question might give you the lengths of the sides of the triangle, but then that could refer to the perimeter of a triangle. So it's always important that you read the question carefully, decide what it is. But when you're working out the area of a triangle, the only two dimensions you need to know are the height and the base. Now, also just be wary of if a question was given to you, like 3 centimeters, that's being 6 centimeters, and this being, I don't know, let's say 5 centimeters, then obviously you just need to be wary of the fact that it's the height that you're looking for, not the actual length of the side. It's only going to be one length which you're going to need to work out the base. Now, if you're given a right angle triangle, then obviously you just need to look at the two, what we call the two perpendicular sides. In other words, the two sides that are connected to the right angle. So never the diagonal, the other two sides. And again, that really generally applies to right angle triangles only. So then let's have a look at trapeziums. Now, trapeziums are a little bit more of a complex shape, also regarded as a high level shape, but the general concept of it is exactly the same. Now, the formula to work out the area of trapezium is where we add the two parallel sides together. Now, if we look at a normal trapezium, it's either going to be one of these two shapes. Now, the parallel sides are the two sides that make, let's say, if you imagine like a trapezium being a roof, then it's going to be the two sides that are parallel to each other. Like say, and like on the second shape, the two parallel sides are these two here. So basically, it's the two sides that are connected to the diagonal lines or the sort of slants of there. But just be wary. Now, so obviously if our two parallel lines are labelled as A and B, now it doesn't really matter which one you call A, which one you call B. Generally speaking, A tends to be the smaller one, but sometimes again it can be a little bit difficult to determine which that is. But again, like I said, it doesn't really make a difference because we will be adding the two numbers together. And then the last bit of information you need, which is the height of the trapezium. Now, when you've got a trapezium that looks like generally a cartoon roof, then it's quite easy to know that this length here is going to be the height. However, if you have got a trapezium that looks like this, then it is important that you recognize what the height is going to be, and it's going to be the straight line that connects the two parallel sides together. Now, sometimes you might get a trapezium that looks like this, and I should really be using a ruler, in which you might be given that this is 7 centimeters, that might be 8 centimeters, that might be 6 centimeters, and this might be 11 centimeters. And they might give you, let's say, this length here, which they might say is 5 centimeters. Now, what we need to do in order to work out the area of a trapezium, the two lengths I need to work on, or the three lengths I need to work on with is going to be the 6, the 11, and the 5. I don't need the 7 centimeters. I don't need the lengths of the two slanted sides. The only times that you would need those two sides would be if you're working out the perimeter. So to work out the perimeter, then I would need, and let me just get rid of the markings of those and get that C back in. So if I was working with the perimeter, then obviously what I would need to know is all the sides of that particular shape. So if I was working out the perimeter, I would add 6 plus 8 plus 11 plus 7. But here we're just focusing on the area of the trapezium. Now, this formula can be written like this, or just like with the triangle formula, I can write this formula as a half h a times b, or you could write it as a half a plus b h. And again, either or, which is entirely up to you, which is fine, but I generally go for this option here, which I've highlighted in the blue and now orange cloud. So let's have a look at some general examples then. So in this, again, we're looking at, it's important that you recognize what shape we're actually dealing with. So obviously it's pretty obvious because it says the area of a triangle. So what's good practice if you write down the formula that you're going to be using. So once you know what shape you're working with, write down the formula. So for this, I'm going to need to know the base and the height. Now here I've got 3 measurements, so I need to be careful that I'm choosing the right 2 measurements. So the base is going to be 18 and the height is going to be 11. So I can kind of ignore the 14 centimeters. So the area is going to be equal to 11 times 18 all divided by 2. So again, if I reach for my calculator and just type in 11 times 18, which is 198, and then divide that by 2, I get an answer of 99. Now make sure that you're using the right units. So here we work with centimeters, so it's going to be centimeter squared. And there we go. Now a key thing to note is before calculating the area or even the perimeter, make sure all lengths are in the same units. Now if they're not, then all you need to do is make sure that they are. So if you've got a combination of millimeters and centimeters or centimeters and meters, decide which unit you want to work with and then convert the ones that aren't that particular unit to do so. Now you'll probably get an extra couple of marks, and those types of questions tend to be on more high level papers or at the end of a paper. But again, it's just something just to look out for, is making sure that all the units are the same. So moving on to our next question, again, it says work out the area of the triangle. Now this one, it's not obvious that we're given the height. So again, you're thinking, oh, that's the height, and it's not there, it's not given to me. But again, recognizing that this is a right angle triangle, so if I just redraw this triangle like so and just rotate it, I can see that this is 6 centimeters and this is going to be 6 centimeters because it's the two sides that's attached to the right angle that are 6 centimeters. Now from this, I can see that my height is 6 and the base is 6. So the area is going to be 6 times 6 divided by 2, which is 36 divided by 2, which gives me the answer of 18. And again, units are going to be centimeters squared, and there is my final answer. Then moving on to a next question. So again, still working with triangles. So again, I need to know, are the units the same? Yes, because I'm working in centimeters. So the base is 2.5 and the height is going to be 4.6. Now, don't let the fact that they're decimals sort of make you anxious or nervous. It's just a case of just following the same, and the fact they're in decimals and asking our answer to 1 decimal place purely means that this question is going to appear on a calculated paper. So it's going to be 2.5 times 4.6, and I work that out and divide it by 2. So here I'm going to do 2.5 times 4.6 divided by 2 gives me an answer of 5.75. Now rounding that answer up to 1 decimal place is going to be 5.8 centimeters, and I'm just going to write down to 1 decimal place. Now if you are given a rounding question, it's always good practice to write down whatever your calculator says, but always make sure that you're emphasizing that your final answer is what they've asked you to round it up to. So moving on to our first question, looking at trapeziums. Now here, it's not labelled on the diagram what the lengths are, so what I'm going to do here is to just write down what the numbers are. So A is 7 centimeters, B is 10.4 centimeters, and H is 6.7 centimeters. So again, just make sure that all the units are the same. So again, working in centimeters, that's absolutely fine. And so all I now need to do is substitute it into the formula. So the formula is A plus B times H divided by 2. So from this, I've got A equals, A is 7, B is 10.4. I'm going to multiply that by 6.7 and then divide it all by 2. Now, if you want to do it in steps, that's absolutely fine. So here I'm going to do 7 plus 10.4. So A equals, it's going to be 17.4 times 6.7, all divided by 2. So 17.4 times 6.7 is 116.58, and then going to divide that by 2. So I've got divided by 2 gives me a final answer of 58.29, and again the units are going to be centimeter squared. Now there's no mention of this question of me needing to round this question up, so I can leave the answer as it is, or if I wanted to, I could round it up to 1 decimal place, which would be that. Now if you're rounding, it's always good practice to make sure that you're stating what you've rounded up to, just to show that you actually have rounded it and that your answer you've given is not the actual exact answer. So moving on to the next question. So again, working with decimals. So again, labeling our triangle with trapezium, we've got A and B, which are 2 parallel sides. And again, you can see in this diagram, it's actually been quite nice, and they've actually labeled the trapezium in terms of which sides are parallel with the little arrows, and the 6.2 is going to be my height. So the area again is going to be A plus B times H divided by 2. So substituting the numbers in, I've got A equals 7.9 plus 10.8 times by multiplied by 6.2 divided by 2. And again, I could easily put that in straight into my calculator, or I could work it out separately. It's entirely up to you, but personally I'd go for typing it all into your calculator, especially if you've written it all out. Times 6.2 divided by 2 gives me an answer of 57.97, and again centimeter squared, or I could write it as 58 centimeter squared to 0 decimal places. If I was going to write this to 1 decimal place, I'd write 58.0 centimeter squared to 1 dp. But again, it's entirely up to you how you want to write your answer, because like I said, it's not specified in the question, so I can write it basically however I want as long as it's correct. So moving on to the next question again. So here I've got a rogue number. I've got 4 numbers to choose from, so it's really important that I first identify what are my 2 parallel sides. So here is 1 parallel side, which I'm just highlighting in blue, and here is my second. So out of the 2 numbers, I've just got to decide which one is the height, and it's going to be the 7. So that's going to be my H. So again, using the formula, so A equals A plus B times H divided by 2. So I've got A equals 10 plus 15 multiplied by 7, or divided by 2. So working this out, I've got 25 times 7 over 2. So again, I've got, and that's going to be 175 divided by 2. And again, just typing that into my calculator, 175 over 2, I get an answer of 87.5, and again working in centimeters again, and there is my final answer. So working through this question, it says here is a diagram of Kath's garden, and the question is asking us to work out the area of the garden. Now the key thing I need to look at is, are all the lengths in the same unit? So yes, all the units are the same, so I'm working in meters. The next thing I then need to decide is thinking about, well, I've been given all the dimensions of this trapezium, and I just need to work out the vital ones that I need to work it out the area. So the first thing I need to do first is establish which 2 sides are my 2 parallel sides. Now I've not been given any arrows, so I'm just going to have to use my own common sense of establishing which 2 sides are going to be my A and B, and that's going to be the 11 and the 19. So here I can write A equals 11 and B equals 19. Now the next thing I've got to then decide is which the 2 remaining lengths are going to be the height. So is it the 10 or the 8? And it's going to be the 8. So all I then need to do is write down the formula, which is area equals A plus B times H, all divided by 2. So the area is going to be 11 plus 19 added together, multiplied by 8, and then divided by 2. So area equals 11 plus 19 is 30, times 8 divided by 2, so that's going to be 240 over 2, give me a final answer of 120, and the units are meters, so the answer is going to be meter squared, and there is my final answer. So looking at some extension questions, this question says that a triangle and a rectangle are shown below. The area of the rectangle is 5 times the area of the triangle. Work out the width of the rectangle. So first things first, what we need to do is work out the area of the triangle. So the area of the triangle is going to be 8 times 6 divided by 2, which is 24 centimeters squared. Now that would actually get you 1 mark of just working that out. Now in terms of what this means, it means that the area of the rectangle is 5 times the size of the triangle. So it's going to be 5 times 24. Now if I work out what 5 times 24 is, so 5 times 24, and that gives me an answer of 120. So that's what the area of this is going to be. So the next thing I need to then work out is, how do you work out the area of a rectangle? The area of a rectangle is the length times the height, or base times the height, whichever you want to call it. So it's going to be the length, which is 12, times the height, which is W, equals 120. So all I need to do is either decide, what do I need to multiply 12 to get 120, or just simply divide 120 by 12, so W equals 10, and it's going to be in centimeters. So the final answer is W equals 10 centimeters, and there is my final answer. Now again, I'm not putting squared because I'm working out the length, so that's why I don't need square units. And then finally, moving on to our next question. So this question says that the perimeter of the triangle is 30 centimeters. The perimeter of the rectangle is also 30 centimeters. Use the information to work out the area of the square below. So now, in terms of the perimeter of the triangle, so looking at collecting like terms, so perimeter is just adding all the sides together. That's going to be 3a. So from this, we know that the perimeter of the triangle is going to be 30. So then the perimeter, I should write triangle there, just make a little bit there. So the perimeter of the triangle equals 3a. So 3 lots of a equals 30 centimeters, which therefore means that if I divide by 3, a is going to equal 10 centimeters. So from that, I can then get rid of that and call that 10 and this 10. So then working from the next one, so in terms of the perimeter of the rectangle, which is going to be a plus b plus a plus b, and in the question it says that that's also 30 centimeters. So that's going to be, well, if a is 10, so that's going to be 10 plus b plus 10 plus b equals 30. So I've got 2b plus 20 equals 30. Now if I take the 20 over to the other side by taking it away, I get 2b equals 10. Take the 2 over, so b equals 5. Now using those two numbers, what I can then do is now work out the value of the area of the square. So the area equals, and if b is 5, it's going to be 5 times 5, which is 25. And again, don't forget the units, which is going to be in centimeters squared. And there is the final answer. Now there will be some questions in the description below for you to practice everything you've learnt, and I'll also include the answers for you to check to make sure you've got them correct.